For 30 years, I lived for my son. Every dollar I earned, every hour I worked, every dream I sacrificed was for Liam. I gave him my sleepless nights, my strength, my future. And yet, on that final night in my own house, he looked at me with eyes like sharpened glass and spat the words that shattered everything. "You're nothing to us." The sound of keys clattering against the glass table cut through the silence like a gunshot. Liam paced the polished hardwood floor, his expensive shoes striking a rhythm that felt like a countdown. His wife, Olivia, lounged elegantly on the white leather sofa, arms folded, a smirk twisting her lips. "It's time to go, David," she said smoothly, her voice soft as silk and just as cold. I stood frozen in the doorway, gripping the handle of a battered suitcase. 30 years of devotion boiled into a single moment of betrayal. This house, my house, gleamed with wealth I had built, yet it felt alien now, hostile. A chandelier sparkled above us, wine dripped from an overturned glass into the cream-colored rug, and every detail mocked me. "Foolish Liam," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I gave you everything." He stopped pacing, his wedding ring catching the light as he pointed at the door. "And I'm done carrying you. Get out." I wanted to scream, to shake him, to remind him of the boy who had once clung to me after his mother died, but that boy was gone. What stood before me was a stranger in my son's skin, filled with contempt where love should have been. My fingers brushed against the crumpled envelope in my pocket. Not yet, I thought. Not here. I lifted my suitcase, light with only a few shirts, a worn photograph of my late wife Mary, and that envelope. Its hidden weight steadied me, though I didn't yet know why. "You'll regret this," I muttered. The words hung in the air, part warning, part plea. Liam's laugh was harsh, cruel. "Regret? No, father, you'll be the one who's sorry." Olivia's eyes gleamed with satisfaction, but her hand twitched, betraying the faintest flicker of unease. The oak door loomed ahead, heavy with brass fittings, a barrier between the life I had built and the cold void waiting outside. I opened it. The night air rushed in, wet and bitter, soaking through my thin coat in seconds. "Liam," I said quietly, pausing without turning back, "you're wrong about me." He gave no reply. The door slammed shut, the sound echoing inside my bones. Rain blurred the glow of a distant street lamp. I stood alone on the curb with nowhere to go, a suitcase in one hand and 30 years of sacrifice in the other. To the world I was broken, poor David cast aside like trash. But as the storm stung my skin, I felt something stir. Not pain, not yet. Something smaller, harder. An ember refusing to die.
The apartment I found in Lent was a box with paper-thin walls, a single flickering bulb, and the constant drip of a leaky faucet. A far cry from the grand house in West Hills. Yet here I sat, surrounded by silence, a cracked mug on the table, and the smell of mildew pressing in on me. I unzipped the suitcase. Out came Mary's faded photograph. Her smile was gentle, her hair lit by sunlight. Liam leaning into her side, no older than 6. He had clung to me after she died in '95, and in those years I had promised him the world. I worked double shifts, sold my own dreams, and made sure he never went without. I remembered hiding bills beneath the kitchen table, smiling through exhaustion just to tell him, "We're fine, kid." Every decision I made was for him. College tuition, the down payment on his house, even signing over my own. And now, after all of that, his voice haunted me. "You're nothing to us." I reached deeper into the suitcase and found the envelope, yellowed with age, edges frayed, my own handwriting still scrawled across it. I had carried it for decades, though I never dared to open it. For reasons I couldn't yet explain, it felt important. The silence pressed down. My hand shook as I set the envelope on the table beside Mary's photograph. Had I loved Liam too much? Had I smothered him with devotion until he believed he was entitled to discard me? I searched for answers in Mary's smile, but the photo gave none. The weeks blurred into one another. I moved through my days in a fog, declining Liam's calls, ignoring Olivia's inevitable pleas for reason. I didn't want their apologies. I didn't want their pity. Yet every night, as I lay on the sagging mattress, I thought of Liam as a boy, his small hands wrapped around my neck, promising to make me proud. And every morning I remembered the man who had stood before me in my own house and told me I was nothing. It was in those restless nights, staring at water-stained ceilings, that the ember inside me grew. Not broken, not yet. Something stronger was waking.
The library became my refuge. Rows of dusty books and the soft hum of fluorescent lights steadied me when my anger threatened to swallow me whole. 2 weeks had passed since Liam's betrayal, and the wound still burned. But something else was rising beneath it, a hunger to fight back. I buried myself in legal texts, my pen scratching across notebooks as though each word was a weapon. Property law, inheritance disputes, contracts, concepts that once felt alien now pulsed with meaning. If Liam thought throwing me out ended my story, he was wrong. "You look like you're preparing for war," a voice interrupted. I looked up to see a woman with damp curls and reading glasses slipping down her nose. She carried a heavy law book, her coat still flecked with Portland drizzle. "Maybe I am," I said. She slid into the chair opposite me. "Ellen Marshall, lawyer, and you look like a man who could use one." Her eyes were sharp, but beneath them was a softness that suggested she knew what it meant to lose. I hesitated, then let the truth pour out. My son had taken my home, spat in my face, called me nothing. Speaking it out loud was like reopening the wound, but also like cutting away rot. Ellen's jaw tightened. "Sons can be ungrateful, but you're stronger than you think." She pushed the book toward me. "Fundamentals of Property Law. Start here. It's not as boring as it looks." We spoke for an hour in hushed voices, the library fading around us. She told me of her own scars, a divorce, a daughter she hadn't seen in years. Loss had carved lines into her, but it had also forged steel. "You don't have to lose yourself, David." Her words struck something deep. For weeks, I had let grief define me, but now I remembered the envelope hidden in my drawer. Not just paper, but a promise. "How do I fight them?" I asked. "Find their weaknesses," she replied. "People like your son and his wife, arrogant, careless. Use that arrogance against them." From then on, Ellen and I became allies. We met in cafes and quiet corners of the library, poring over public records, news articles, social media trails. Liam's real estate firm wasn't as pristine as he claimed. Complaints lurked in forums, whispers of inflated property values, shady dealings swept under the rug. "Here," Ellen said one afternoon, sliding her laptop toward me. "A client accusing him of fraud. If we can link this to his firm, it's leverage."
Her voice was calm, but her fingers tapped the table with restrained excitement. I leaned back, the chair creaking under my weight. He's always been careless, even as a boy. And Olivia. Her obsession with appearances was a vulnerability of its own. Photos of her at galas, her perfect smile stretched thin. A woman who lived for control would crumble if scandal touched her name. We built a list. Liam's arrogance, Olivia's vanity. Weaknesses sharp as cracks in glass. Ellen confided in me one evening as we sat in a diner, steam rising from chipped mugs of coffee. After my divorce, I thought I'd never recover. He took the house, my confidence, even my daughter's love. I rebuilt, but at a cost. I reached across the table, my throat tight. I'm sorry. I know what it is to lose family. She waved it off, though her eyes lingered on mine. That's why we're doing this. Not just for you, for everyone they've hurt. Her conviction lit something in me. For the first time in weeks, I felt not only less alone, I felt dangerous. My first strike came in the library, hunched over a computer public. I crafted an anonymous letter, each word careful, vague enough to shield me, sharp enough to wound. Concerns about fraudulent practices at Clark Realty. I listed suspicious deals, tied them to Liam's name, hinted at Marcus Reed's complaint. My heart thundered as I hovered over the send button. Was this too far? He was my son. Then I heard his voice in memory. You're nothing to us. I clicked send. The email vanished into the ether, a stone hurled through glass. When I met Ellen at the cafe later, her scarf damp from rain, she leaned in close. It's done. I nodded. To morning. Her eyes gleamed. Good. That's a clean hit. But don't underestimate them, David. They'll fight back. I imagined Liam in his sleek office, his tie loosened, barking at assistants as emails piled up. I saw Olivia's calm mask crack, her words laced with venom as she blamed him. The thought didn't sadden me. It thrilled me. Days later, the news broke. Clark Realty faces inquiry over alleged fraud. My pulse raced as I read it on the glowing screen in my dim apartment. The regulator's name was there, the whispers of an investigation spreading. It worked. For the first time since the night I was thrown out into the rain, I allowed myself a smile. But victory came laced with unease. Liam and Olivia would not crumble quietly. And as Ellen warned, people like them fought dirtiest when cornered. That night, I double-checked the locks on my door. The apartment was silent, but my bones told me this was only the beginning. The ember inside me blazed hotter. I was no longer the prey. I was the hunter.
The retaliation came swift. One gray February morning, I opened my mailbox to find a thick envelope with my name stamped in bold black letters. Inside was a court summons. Liam and Olivia were suing me for defamation, accusing me of spreading lies to ruin them. They painted me as bitter, unstable, a father too fragile to handle rejection. I clenched the papers in my hands, pacing my apartment, the floorboards creaking under my anger. I could almost hear Olivia's icy tone coaching Liam's lawyer, see Liam smirk as he imagined me crushed beneath legal weight. But this time, fear didn't consume me. Something else stirred, defiance. Ellen met me at the library that afternoon, her coat damp from rain. She scanned the summons, her jaw tight. They're desperate. That's a good sign. This isn't strength, David. It's panic. I sat heavily at the oak table, my hands trembling. What if we lose? She leaned forward, her hand grazing mine. "We won't. Remember the deed." The envelope I had carried for years, yellowed, fragile, yet unbroken, contained the original contract for the house. A clerical error meant the property was still mine. Liam had built his empire on sand, and I held the truth that could collapse it all. Ellen's voice steadied me. "That deed is ironclad. When the time comes, we'll reveal it. Let them think they've won until the very last moment." Her faith anchored me. For the first time, I began to believe not just in justice, but in myself. The courthouse loomed large against the March rain. I wore a worn suit that strained at the shoulders, but the envelope in my pocket gave me strength. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with whispers. Liam sat at the plaintiff's table, jaw tight, suit impeccable. Olivia perched beside him, her scarf neat, her face calm, too calm. But I saw the tension in her eyes, the way her hand clutched her purse as though holding it together might keep her world from unraveling. Their lawyer spoke first, his voice smooth, his accusations sharp. He painted me as a bitter old man spinning fantasies, trying to drag down his successful son. Liam nodded along, smirking occasionally, his confidence filling the room like poison. I sat still, the weight of the envelope grounding me. Then it was Ellen's turn. She rose with quiet authority, her tone measured, her words slicing through their polished lies. "Your Honor, we have evidence that changes everything." All eyes turned to me. I stood, legs steady, and handed the judge the deed. The paper felt heavier than iron in my hands. "This," I said, my voice low but clear, "is the original contract for the house. The transfer of ownership was never properly completed. Legally, the property remains mine." The courtroom stilled. The judge adjusted her glasses, scanning the document. Silence stretched until Liam broke it with a furious shout. "That's a lie! He's making it up!" His chair scraped back as he surged to his feet, his voice cracking. Olivia's hand shot to his arm, nails digging deep, but her composure slipped, her face paled, her mask shattered. The judge raised a hand, silencing him. She read on, her brow furrowing with each line. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Clark," she said, turning to Liam, "this document is valid. The transfer of ownership was incomplete. This property belongs to your father." Gasps rippled across the room. Liam's face twisted with disbelief. Olivia's purse slipped from her grasp, thudding to the floor. Ellen leaned toward me, her whisper fierce. "You did it, David." But I didn't smile. My victory was heavy, laced with sorrow. I had won, but I had torn my own son apart to do it. Still, justice was justice. The judge's gavel struck. Their case was dismissed. I walked out of the courtroom, the rain cool on my face, and for the first time in years, I felt light.
Weeks later, I stood inside the house again. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, catching on the banister I had polished countless times. Memories clung to every corner. Liam's childish laughter echoing from the stairs, Mary's voice calling from the kitchen. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like chains. So I called a realtor. Signing the papers to sell it felt less like loss and more like release. I didn't need walls steeped in betrayal. What I needed was freedom. When the sale closed, I met Ellen in a cafe bathed in summer light. She spread a travel map across the table, her scarf bright against the day. "Paris or Rome?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "Both," I said, grinning despite myself. We laughed like old friends, the weight of battles behind us.
She would visit her daughter first, try to mend that broken bond. I prayed she could. For me, it was finally time. Time to live the life Mary once asked me not to abandon. "Live, David," she had whispered before she died. "Don't stop." I had stopped for too long, but not anymore. In my new apartment, small but filled with sunlight, Mary's photograph rested in a fresh frame. I touched the glass gently. "I'm living now," I whispered. Justice had freed me. Not just from Liam and Olivia, not just from the past, but from the belief that I was nothing. I stood at my new doorstep, a plain ticket in my hand, the paper crisp with promise. Paris waited, Rome, perhaps even more. The sun warmed my face. The future was open. And I, David Clark, was whole again.